Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a review over an article titled Engaging All Students in Mathematical Discussions. This was a very interesting article to read, especially for me since I don't currently have my own classroom and I'm still in the process of learning everything. As teachers, it is often hard to tell or dangerous to assume that students are actively listening and learning from the discussions that are held in our classrooms. These discussions often have one or possibly more students share their thinking about a problem that we are learning, while the rest of the class is expected to listen and learn from the sharing. So the purpose of this article was to provide educators with 4 strategies that were found to be effective in promoting full engagement during these discussions. The first of the 4 strategies talked about in this article was to tell students what to listen for. So this article states that you must specifically assign your students to engage in one or more of the listening roles. Doing this provides you with an opportunity to not only increase the engagement of your listening students, but also promote deep thinking on multiple levels. By doing this, we can think back to taxonomies or thinking levels, such as Bloom's taxonomy, that will provide us with roles of student listening. So by keeping that in mind, when you begin a discussion, we can assign students to listen and tell them at which of the thinking levels to be thinking while listening. Was the way they thought about the problem the same or different from the way the student who was sharing thought about it? The second strategy in the article was to teach them how to engage in that type of listening if needed. In this type of situation, the article states that they suggest we tell them the name of the listening role, model it, and then give them some wording to use. So, for example, we as teachers or future teachers need to take the role of asking the questions. If students are not understanding the types of questions needed to be asked, jump in and help them. Tony, why did you add 2 plus 4 together? This will show the students what type of questions that we are looking for. The third strategy given in the article was to call on listeners to respond during and after each sharing. This strategy makes perfect sense for what we are trying to accomplish with the students. To be sure that they are all actively listening for what we have assigned them to listen to, we need to randomly call on students during the sharing and after the sharing to ask them their thoughts. Proverbs 19:27 states, "Cease to hear instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge." As teachers or future teachers, this is what we are trying to avoid from happening. We want our students to learn everything they possibly can in the short amount of time that we have them. There are a few options when you are doing this strategy. You can either call on an individual student or you can ask the entire class to respond. If you choose to call on an individual student, you need to decide if you are going to do it randomly or if you're going to ask for volunteers. I know most teachers usually call students out randomly, and it just allows you to be sure that these students are paying attention and listening for what you're wanting them to listen to. The fourth and final strategy given to us from the article is to have routines in place. With this strategy, the article is referring to routine responses for students to give when they are called upon randomly and do not have an answer. If the teacher is sure that the student was listening but just did not understand, they could respond to the student sharing by saying, "I'm sorry, I was listening, but I didn't understand what you were saying. Would you mind repeating it?" On the other hand, if the teacher thinks that the student can't respond because they were not listening, the student could say, "I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Would you mind repeating that?" The article suggests placing these 2 statements on a poster board somewhere in your classroom. The whole idea of this article is for teachers to not just assume that the listening students will engage with the sharing that is taking place during discussions. By implementing these 4 strategies into their math discussions, which the 4 strategies were tell students what to listen for, teach them how to engage in that type of listening, call on listeners to respond during and after each sharing, and have routines already in place for when listening students cannot or choose not to respond. By bringing these strategies into the math discussions, teachers can dramatically increase the students' engagement in the sharing.